You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how we doing tonight?
Doing good. Avs just went up 2-0 in their series against the Wild, so I'm happy about that. The Nuggets choked away another playoff series against the Timberwolves, so I'm not happy about that. What else? Doing a lot of rookie drafts right now, so getting that through with the Dynasty leagues and just kind of plugging away, man. But overall, it's good, man. I'm happy, and we're inching closer to the schedule release. So that's always exciting for the NFL. And then, yeah, just kind of starting to do a little bit more in-depth homework on situations, players, kind of guys I have my eye on, and start making an early target list for draft season.
There we go. Certainly a very exciting time with some of this, right? Like it's pretty interesting on how some of these teams are kind of went and starting to see how some of that all kind of work together here as we start getting deeper into this. But yeah, fully into that dynasty draft season. And yeah, also I like that idea too, right? Like it's never too early to really start looking ahead here towards redraft season and really start looking ahead at what the season kind of holds here for the for this 2026 season. And so kind of perfect segue into, giving the shameless plug for the player profiles that we'll get through here in a few months. And, hope folks are ready for all that goodness coming their way.
Absolutely.
So, but yes, I also am disappointed about the Nuggies, but let's go Avs for sure.
Yeah, they looked good. Both games, they've looked good so far.
Right. So Nuggets, not so much. And quite frankly, I don't know what the answer is, but you've had 2 years in a row with very quick early exits.
Blow it up.
Yep. Like, you got arguably still the best player in the world, and you can't manage to seem to make it out of the first round, second round type of thing. So it's going to take something. But anyway,
a little bit of defense would go a long way.
All right. Right, that could go. That could be. So, absolutely right. So, we named the show really kind of talking on dynasty rankings, but we talked a whole lot about. We kind of talked about that pre-show, and right, like dynasty rankings are kind of everywhere for the most part. Guys are in there, are kind of within the same vein depending upon where you look at. So, maybe a guy's up a spot here or down a spot here, but I think where we'll actually spend some time is really kind of looking at where maybe the values are in this one, and players that potentially slide, and we've seen slide through some of our own drafts here that we're able to feel like we get some pretty good value when drafting out of those spots, and feel like that probably will give some better insight for folks out there, hopefully, and more so than just kind of your standard. Oh, I've got this guy here and I've got that guy there, and cut and paste. It's really, it's not going to be much different than what you see out there and a lot of other sites. So we'll just kind of go through that a little different and put a little spin on it and really see more where the value lies. But before we get into that, was there any news, any notes that you wanted to hit up?
Nothing too crazy. We're starting to see some of these rookies sign their contracts and get things done. It doesn't sound like there's some big holdout here at the moment. So obviously not everyone has signed yet, but you don't hear that groups are miles apart. So that's kind of plugging right along. You're going to start to see some rookie mini camps. I believe some have already started actually. So or rookie OTAs, if you will. So these guys are getting in the building, right? They're meeting with their coaches, meeting with, especially weightlifting, conditioning coaches, their nutritionists, they're on staff, and really start to mold these young men into, well-oiled NFL machines, right? Or at least the best they can with whatever these teams are asking of the body changes, right? Whether it's a BMI thing and you're trying to add weight or drop weight, or, trying to, just put on put on good muscle pounds to take the abuse of the NFL, or maybe some of these guys are getting in and say, hey, you kind of let loose after your pro day, like it's time to
Tighten up a little bit, yeah.
Get back down into playing shape.
Right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, right, and we'll start getting a lot more information coming out about how some of these guys are kind of fit in and work here throughout the coming weeks and months here. So definitely lots of good insights and info that'll still be coming through here. But yeah, I didn't really see much in the way of news kind of coming out, right? A little bit of on a slower time frame, or a little bit of a slower pace here, a little bit slower time deal as far as the news coming out here, right? Not a whole lot kind of going on here, but yeah. So you're kind of jumping back in here and looking at the rookie side of things here. Any players out there that you really kind of feel that maybe you're looking at feel like maybe get overdrafted a little bit, or maybe a little underdrafted with some potential value, and we can kind of look at that however you'd like to, whether we're talking about on a per round basis, or just kind of looking kind of overall to it. So how would you like to rock and roll through that?
I mean, I think there's just a couple. I guess I'm good either way. There's definitely a couple names per round that I'm feeling like, okay, this is overdrafted here.
Okay, let's do it by round then.
Well, okay, so I guess for the sake of putting it out there for everybody, we're talking, single quarterback, half point PPR, the same way we do our baseline rankings and projections and everything that Derek and I do. So just we're going to put that in the atmosphere right now, so everyone kind of understands what we're looking at. But I would start with someone who's being overdrafted at the moment is Casey Concepcion. Just because first round talent goes to a team where you don't know who's throwing him the football. And regardless of the option, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or
Deshaun Watson.
Derek, Deshaun Watson, thank you. All I wanted to say was rub and tug, and I couldn't get the name out. I just think he's going a spot, or maybe it's not a great overdraft, but I feel like it's a dart throw. It's a really early dart throw. I like the possibility, but truthfully, I like Denzel Boston more for what his size is and what he's going to be able to do on the outside. I think he's going to be a little bit more quarterback proof than Concepcion is. So, I think he's getting a little overdrafted. Same thing with Kenyon Sadiq for the Jets. I don't know why people are drafting him before Omar Cooper, but he's getting drafted before Omar Cooper in a lot of leagues. And I don't think Sadiq's going to have much of an impact in the first 2 years. This is not like what we thought we were getting with Kyle Pitts or with Brock Bowers. It is just a completely different animal. Yes, he can catch the ball, but again, you're going to a team. You kind of know who's throwing you the football for now, but that's going to quickly change. No one's quite sure how this offense is going to flow through in New York. It's been very stagnant the last few years, regardless of who the quarterback's been. And now we're falling in love with pass catchers because they took 2 in the first round. And it's just not my cup of tea. I would happily take Omar Cooper over Kenyon Sadiq in our kind of standard format, and I'd be looking elsewhere. And then the last one that's going in the first round, so 3 in the first round here, it's right there at the turn, but I don't love Jonah Coleman in the first round, only because Sean Payton throws a ton of snaps at all of his running backs. Like there's no clear path to what he's going to see, right? And if I'm drafting a running back in the first round, like where's his path to 15 touches for a first round running back? And I cannot come up with one, at least currently. I mean, and if someone's going to throw out the argument, well, J.K. Dobbins is going to end up getting hurt again. Well, he is until he isn't. And again, my counter to that was J.K. Dobbins injuries have been kind of freak injuries. Like it's an ACL here, or it's not soft tissue, right? It's a ankle here. Last year with the horse collar tackle, right? Like that wasn't a plant and go. Like it wasn't a pulled hamstring, everything else. Like there's a horse collar tackle, and that's why it's illegal tackle anymore, because they saw these players were getting hurt. So you're going to have Dobbins, you're going to have RJ Harvey, and now you're going to have Coleman, who maybe is the Dobbins heir apparent here in a year or two. So for dynasty formats, okay, if you're loving how your wide receiver rooms sit and you're just you're loading up on running backs because you got to find something that kind of clicks for an RB2 or maybe another flex play during bye weeks, maybe. But those three guys in particular, with Concepcion, Sadiq, and Coleman, I don't love them in the first round or where they're going in the first round. I like Concepcion more in the back instead of the middle. Sadiq, I guess in the 12 hole, maybe, but realistically, like he's more of a second round guy to me just because of what it's going to take for him to be able to produce in a first round rookie role and the years that it's going to take him to kind of be up and coming. So I don't love that. And then with Coleman, he's not anywhere near what Love or what Price are as far as step into a active role as a rookie and be able to kind of bank on those points.
Right. Eli Stowers is another one that I'm not a big fan of, right? He's kind of currently coming off the board a lot of times right at the 12 spot. So at the very end of the first round, like this is another guy going to a team that hasn't had a tight end really produce for him over the past few years, right? Dallas Goedert has the one or two blow up games that managed to sneak him into tight end one territory at the end of the year, but you're never happy having the Dallas Goedert experience for your fantasy roster year in, year out. Not only that, right? Dallas Goedert's still on the roster. So you're taking a tight end at the back of the first round to come in and be the second string for a team that doesn't really utilize the tight end in the passing game a whole heck of a lot. Like that one there kind of boggles my mind. And, these two tight ends, right? Like I think back to Trey McBride, right? When Trey McBride came out of college, right? He came off the board. We thought that there would be some good things there for him, but routinely he was a third or fourth round pick in most of these rookie drafts there, right? And most of your tight ends, that's really where you need to be looking to draft most of your tight ends is in that third, fourth round. Like I'm not a big believer in drafting tight end in the first round, unless it's a guy like a Brock Bowers. You could have swayed me with Kyle Pitts when he was coming out, right? With the frame, the build, the athleticism, everything else. Like, but Sadiq is a smaller tight end, right? Like he's a big receiver, small tight end is really kind of where he fits in at. And quite frankly, it's not in Geno we trust. You've got Frank Reich is coming in to be the offensive coordinator, and we've seen that work out so well in his previous stops as a head coach, right? Like, he gets all the credit for going into Philadelphia and winning the Super Bowl with them there, and the work that he did there, but it didn't translate down the road, right? And so I don't know. I'm not necessarily a believer in these tight ends in this draft class for where they're coming off the board at in particular. But I could continue to go kind of on and on, but I feel like I'll just be kicking a horse at that point. So, but no, I agree with you, right? Like it doesn't make sense. Some of these guys that are kind of coming off the board, kind of where they're coming off the board. But overall, right, like one of the guys that I do kind of really like and being kind of up there, right? If I'm sitting at the 103, really happy with where I get a kind of draft there with the 103 with a guy like right. Typically you're going to be staring down the Cardinal Tate or the Jordan Tyson type of move. And I'm good taking a shot on a wide receiver in that range. And really I'm happy with either one of those guys that falls to me in that range, right? On the off chance that Jeremiah Love happens to fall there, yeah, I'm happy with that too. But I think that's a really kind of good spot to be drafting out of. You don't mind kind of drafting in that back end around that 109 because oftentimes you can get an Omar Cooper or a Boston fall to you there. I feel like there's some good value there as well. But any other thoughts as far as potential value in the first round as far as some picks there?
I mean, value wise, I think that's about it for the first round, right? Like you're looking at, if Cooper or Boston can drop, then great. I don't have a problem reaching and grabbing in. Really, Antonio Williams is kind of a fringe player, who the Commanders took in the third round there, just because, he might play in the slot, that just because that's where he predominantly played in college, but the Commanders don't really have anybody to throw the ball to outside of Terry McLaurin. So I don't mind that because the path for targets, as I hit my microphone, sorry, the path for targets is there for him. And so, maybe some folks have him a little bit later in the second round. I don't mind grabbing him in the back end of the first because at least you feel like Jaden Daniels is a competent quarterback. You just need him to stay healthy. And there's a plenty of open targets in Washington right now. So, maybe not necessarily the value, but in that range is a guy that I have no problem snatching up, knowing that he's not going to get back to me in the back end of the second. So you're kind of picking your poison right there.
Right. Another guy that, if looking in that kind of moving to the second round, and I'm really not a fan with kind of how the board falls at that back end of the first, top end of the second type of range, right? Like top of the second, you start looking at like Mike Washington is kind of the predominant average draft position guy, kind of right there. I mean, potentially, right? Like I can see the upside, right? The speed demon, the running back that can just fly. This is a guy that's coming in to play behind Ashton Genty, who this organization just drafted 8th overall out of the running back position. And I get that you've got an entire regime change going on there, and there's a good chance that you might see a very similar, kind of thing that we saw happen last year in Seattle between a Kenneth Walker and a Zach Charbonnet. But I just don't necessarily see Mike Washington being able to deliver value, at that level.
I don't think I'm as down on him as you are, but there is another guy who I have as my running back 3, who is going later, that and Katron Allen.
I think there's good value for him.
There's great value for him. I see it personally. I think there's great value for him. I have him as my running back 3 for this rookie class. In the situation, the opportunity, I don't think that he's going to be kept under wraps for long. Like, again, Bill is not the answer in Washington, but Katron Allen could be, because what people are doing is they're pushing Allen down the board because Penn State had Nick Singleton higher on the depth chart. Well, Allen was lower on the depth chart, but running with the first team offense consistently at Penn State there at the back end of the season. And I don't like Singleton's draft position. I don't like his landing spot in Tennessee. You still have Tony Pollard there. You still have Tajay Spears there. Like, it's great. You know, the 3 running backs that they're going to carry. But how this, he'll get some touches when Tajay goes down again. Like, I think that's really what it is. Singleton's going to be replacing Tajay, not necessarily Tony in the next year or two. So I think that one's interesting. Here's another one I don't like at the top end of the second is Jeremy Bernard, Alabama receiver that went to Pittsburgh because it's Pittsburgh. Again, you have McCarthy. Okay, great. But you don't have a quarterback. Like, you actively do not have a quarterback who you know is going to throw them the ball. And now you have DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, and Bernard there. Like, I don't see Pittsburgh lighting up the air whether Rodgers comes back or not this season. It's just going to look a little bit different from Mike McCarthy-led offense. Another one at the top end, like the one that I do like as a flyer is I like Chris Bell. I know he's coming back from injury, but Chris Bell, again, is a guy who there's a clear path to plenty of targets. You got Malik Willis. We're going to see how that pans out, but they got to throw the ball to somebody. So high draft capital. Chris Bell's coming in. If he can get healthy, he should be reminiscent, not identical, but reminiscent of maybe how Jalen Waddle looked his rookie season in Miami, right? He's just going to get peppered with targets because there's not a whole lot else behind him.
Right.
So that's one that I do like. But other than that, I mean, maybe in the second round, Jonah Coleman. Okay, maybe either one of the tight ends if they fall to the second round. Not my ideal cup of tea, but if you're starving at tight end in a dynasty league, like, you kind of got to take it where you can get it.
Right.
And one of those guys falls. I understand the perceived value, but I don't like, and this hurts because I'm a Georgia boy. I don't love Zachariah Branch in Atlanta. I'm not seeing the clear path. Like, he's going to be really gadgety, and I just don't know, or I don't know how Atlanta is going to use him just yet. Like, are they truly going to embrace some of the gadgetry that they need to get him open and into space? Or is he just going to kind of wither away and people are going to forget who he is because he's just buried in an offense that doesn't know how to use him?
Right.
So a lot of dart throws. Chris Brazzell, the Carolina receiver who came out of Tennessee a couple years ago, he lit the world on fire. Was his freshman year, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
And then kind of was hidden by some of the other receivers there at Tennessee. Injuries played a little bit of role in that. But again, Bryce Young, like, is he really going to be able to support Brazzell, Coker, and Tet? Like, that's a lot for Bryce Young. And I know he showed a couple little flashes at the end of last year, but Bryce Young's like the poor man's Trevor Lawrence. Like, he just never panned out to what people thought he could be. By the way, we called that in the pre-draft process. So in case anybody's wondering, roll the tape back, because we actively said no thank you.
Right. Real quick, kind of before you move off on that, just, the Chris Brazzell to Tennessee thing, like, Tennessee as Carolina, Chris Brazzell, University of Tennessee wide receiver, going to Carolina, but is an incredibly tall wide receiver again, right? Like, this Carolina receiving room, like, is kind of insane, right? They have the very short quarterback, but they have probably one of the tallest wide receiver rooms in the NFL. And so it's almost like, did they are they trying to make that where the receiver's taller so the quarterback can just float it up there and kind of go through it? But that was kind of an interesting thing when kind of seeing that come through on that.
Yeah, it's reminiscent to what they did when Cam Newton was quarterback. Because Cam would always throw him high, right? If Cam's fault, when he was young and really getting used to the NFL was he was always exposing receivers, right? And at times that's a big no-no. So what did Carolina do? I said, well, we'll go get really big receivers, and then it's not as high.
Right.
And it worked a little bit, right? Obviously, he got him to a Super Bowl. He won an MVP. Like, it's not that Cam Newton was a bad quarterback, but
Right.
Carolina specifically has applied this thought process before. Cam Newton's a completely different type of quarterback than Bryce Young. So I'm not trying to compare the two, but just organizationally, this would be round 2 in the last 20 years of, hey, we're just going to have the biggest receiving core in the NFL, and we're just going to try and figure it out that way.
Right. Yeah, because you kind of look at that, right? Ted McMillan 6'5", Jalen Coker 6'3". I'd have to look up here what Brazel is, but I know he's probably up in that same type of range there.
Yeah. 6'4".
Okay. Yep. But it depends on where you look at, because there's other things to say out there at 6'5". So
there you go.
So I mean, that's
Combine came in at 6'4".
Okay. So it's just kind of interesting when you look at that they certainly have 3 guys that could line up there, and the shortest one of them being 6'3" is a slot receiver. So
absolutely.
So no, very interesting there, right? But not to kind of derail that one, but where else you kind of looking at there?
So Emmett Johnson's another guy. I don't understand why you're drafting Kansas City's backup in the second round.
Early in the second too.
Yeah, so I don't like that. Now, some guys that I do like in the second, right? I like Katron Allen a lot. I think there's a lot of value there. He's my 3rd running back on the board. Dejon Stribling. Okay. I understand that the Niners got a lot of flack for drafting him as the first player off in the second round. But clearly, they see something in this kid. And for a team that has Mike Evans, who is long in the tooth now, right? He's much closer to the end of his career than he is the beginning, and has chronic hamstring injuries. Ricky Pearsall, who has not been able to stay healthy his entire NFL career. And this isn't even like the weird gunshot thing when he was at the convenience store and got shot. This is just aches and pains and everything else. Like George Kittle, who is good until he's not. Like the Niners receiving core, their receivers, and then you have Christian McCaffrey, who, yes, stayed healthy all of last year. I'm fading him again this year. Like I just, after 400 plus touches at 29 years old, to see him come back in his age 30 season, I'm not saying the wheels are going to completely fall off. I'm just saying I think there's more likelihood that he's going to miss time this year than not, based off of his body of work. So put all that into consideration. Stribling's a guy that I really like in the second round. You have all these guys who get nicks and bumps and bruises and misses time and all these things. And Stribling's going to be the young, healthy guy. Like, I would not be surprised to see him put a really strong rookie year together, just because he's constantly going to be filling in for guys who are missing, even if he's behind him on the depth chart. And I understand he's not going to play tight end, but those targets need to go somewhere.
Right.
If McCaffrey goes down, those targets go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Stribling's really, he's built slightly smaller than Mike Evans, same concept in a lot of cases. So really, if Evans goes down, or if Evans is 1 year and they decide to move on, or whatever that looks like, Stribling's that X. Like, he is the X future of the future X, of the 49ers. So with him falling, I really like him in the second round. A lot of like the pro, like top-notch fantasy players, and you start looking at some of these like high-end guys who just crush this for a living, they're taking him in the first. Well, if the pros are taking him in the first, why are all the Joe like there's a big disconnect there. The pros think he's a back end of the first round. The Joes anywhere from middle of the second round to early third round. I picked him up in the middle of the third round in a draft or in a rookie draft. I had the pick earlier today, and I was doing handstands. I was like, "This is awesome."
Right.
So he's a guy that I really like.
But
And
and
then
just to kind of piggyback on that thought there as well, right? Like the Niners tend to do well on some of their draft picks on the receivers, right, over the last few years, right? Especially when they're spending kind of early draft capital on those things, right? They're spending a first or second round type of deal, right? Debo did very well for fantasy players out there, right? When the Niners drafted him, right? Brandon Ayuk did well for several years out there as well, right? So Ricky Parasol, right? Book still out there. It hasn't quite been written, but we saw some flashes this last year, right? So right, who knows what Ricky does this year, but this is a guy that I'm willing to take a dart throw on, especially where he's come off the board oftentimes towards the back end of the second. So I
absolutely.
really do think there's tremendous value there.
Another guy going right around him is Ted Hurst, another guy who I understand what the depth chart looks like in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
However, Mbuka and Godwin and Johnson in particular, none of them have the skill set that Mike Evans had while he was there. Ted Hurst does. He is a 6'4" receiver who does a really good job high pointing the football, runs a 4.4. Like, so he's not going to blaze and get behind you, but he can strike, like he can get behind enough and really go up and catch those balls. He's going to have a role. He's going to have a role, whether even if it's just the end zone, he's going to have a role in Tampa Bay. So he's another guy that I like late in the second round. That sometimes I'm able to get a hand on, sometimes I'm not, but I like the value there for anybody who's picking him up, mid to late second round. I think there's some really good value there for him as well. So, you like, which is crazy, right? We like the top end. We like the top half of the first round. And then from the middle of the first round through the middle of the second round, I feel like there's a lot of dart throws. But once we get to the back end of the second round, I feel like if you're doing your homework, there's guys who are being overlooked that have a very promising path to playing time and target shares.
Right. I would agree with that. And then typically once you get past the second round, right, you're really starting to look at kind of dart throws more predominantly in that third and fourth round. But any dart throws that really kind of stand out to you in the in those rounds?
I haven't decided which which Baltimore receiver I like better in the third round necessarily. But I do have shares of Surratt and Jacoby Lane. At the moment, I'm leading more Lane because they drafted him first. So I'm kind of letting the team tell me who they valued more, if you will. So I'm liking that a little bit more. Damon Claiborne, the running back for Minnesota, he's starting to sneak up into the second round now. But I like him in the back end of the second for sure. But I really like him in the third. Again, Aaron Jones isn't getting any younger. One little injury, and then there's a clear path to at least some use there. And then Kalen Black, another San Francisco 49er. I like him in the third as well. I'm not saying that he's going to be the guy if McCaffrey goes down, but he's going to be one of the guys if McCaffrey goes down. So for a third round pick, okay, fine. Offense that likes to use the running back a lot. Here you go. He had a great career at Indiana, excuse me. Go from there. And then my third round quarterback. If I'm looking quarterback this year, third round, I'm going Carson Beck. Like he will start games this year. and the Cardinals would be best served to make use of Jacoby Brissett as long as they possibly can, just to make sure that Carson Beck is ready. But I really think that Carson Beck could be kind of that next story of the guy who came in, sat for a year, but was able to gain so much knowledge and get so much fine tuning that he'll step into year 2 and a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, where'd this guy come from? So I like him in the 3rd round as kind of a quarterback dart throw, if you are, more so than Drew Aller or Caleb Klubnik, who very well could see playing time this year as well in New York with the Jets. Nussmeier is another guy who's kind of floating around the 3rd round, maybe the 4th round, in going there to Kansas City. Like, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like between him and oh my God, I need to take some ginkgo, dude. I'm terrible with names right now. Justin Fields,
right?
As Patrick Mahomes is recovering, to see when he comes back. Here's my last one, but I kind of have a hunch, if you will, and it's Eli Hedenrich, the naval grad that the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted in the 7th round. I think that was a little bit more than novelty. And I could see, based off of his attitude, his work ethic, and just being willing to get after it, I could see how he fits that Steelers mentality and that Steelers mindset. And I think that there's going to be a role for him by the time this season is done. So maybe come playoff time, and I'm not saying he's going to be a lead back, or I'm not saying he's going to be the guy that leads you to a fantasy championship, but for dynasty purposes, you get into end of the 3rd round and you don't love your options, or the top end of the 4th round and you're throwing darts. This guy's one of the guys that I'm throwing a dart at pretty consistently.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could certainly see that one. One of the other guys that I kind of like here as well, as you start getting into the late type of pick here in the dart throw. I'm sorry, Deion Burks, the Indianapolis wide receiver, right? Like, this is a guy that can be a burner, right? He flat out can get behind the defense and can just flat out run. Also a guy that kind of set the world on fire as far as his drills through the combine. Was one of the kind of the top percentile guys there, but he is a guy that is a little bit undersized. But I think that can probably work in this Colts offense and slot in as kind of that 3rd guy, and potentially see some of those kind of big home run type of plays there. So one of those that if I'm staring down the 4th round, like that's a guy that I'm really been finding myself acquiring quite a bit of here through that 4th round. Oh, that's one.
I was just looking at Deion Burks, but yeah, 4.3 flat for his 40, 42 and a half for his vertical jump. Bench press was at 26 reps for a guy who's 5'10", 180 pounds. Like, he's a little smaller, like you said, but he's explosive in a compact frame. And if he's able to get the rapport with Daniel Jones and kind of gain his trust, I could agree with that. Like, he's going to find himself some playing time, and see if he can get into space and do some damage for the Colts there, and take a little bit of the pressure off of the rest of the offense, even though they did just pay Alec Pierce a crap ton of money. And then you still have Josh Downs there also, but still, right, as a 3rd guy, him and Downs are probably, I almost wonder if they're going to fight each other a little bit for that slot position. But just because they're there. You could put either one on the outside, put a little motion behind it, and hide those guys pretty easily. Just a little bit of creative juices for the offensive coordinator, which I shouldn't say all of them, but most of them like the ability to kind of throw their own little trickery, if you will, or wrinkles into the offense.
Put a little candy on it, little window dressing there for it. And Josh Downs is a guy too that I think we'll see a lot of Sundays, right? Like, sometimes when we see these receivers drafted a little bit later, and that this is a guy that can make an impact on the special team side of things, and so I think he will find himself suited up on Sundays. And quite frankly, when you're able to do that, there's a good chance that you can see the field on and start putting things on tape and start earning additional playing time there as well.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard for him to beat out Nick Westbrook Akine.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine so. Alrighty. Well, any other thoughts here before we move into a quick mock?
I think we can jump into the mock, right? We're going to let the board, I'm sure some of our picks will reflect what we've been talking about, but, the board will kind of give you an idea of where players are going today in a dynasty rookie draft.
Right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and head on over here and take a look at this thing. So when we're looking at that, we've got you drafting out of the 110. I'm drafting at the 102. And we'll have some fun with this, but let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off here. All righty. So first pick up, Jeremiah Love, right? Like that's a pretty well scripted at this point. I'm on the clock here. Could go with Jordan Tyson, could go with Carnell Tate. As I was talking about earlier, right when I'm at the 103, I feel really happy about whichever one falls to me there. I'm going to go ahead and take the Carnell Tate side of things here, just because I have quite a few shares of Tyson in other leagues, but haven't had the chance to press Carnell Tate too many times here.
Yeah, he's a guy that's been evading me also. Like the guy in front of me, if I'm drafting early, the guy in front of me always seems to take Tate, and then I end up with Tyson. There's been a couple where I've ended up with Lemon. But yeah, I would agree. Tate's the one kind of evading me. So anyway, so Tyson goes, Mekhi Lemon, Kenyon Sadiq, Jordan Price, and then here's and this is happening, right? Emmett Johnson in the first round, Casey Concepcion, we kind of talked about him, and then Jonah Coleman. So we are seeing Coleman maybe a little bit more so than Emmett Johnson, but still there's our times like in this draft where you see both of them go in the first round. Not my cup of tea, if you will. So really it's for me and based off of our conversations and kind of what's been going on, like it's, what's my flavor here for the back? Do I want to go Cooper or do I want to go Denzel Boston? I am personally finding myself hit Denzel Boston just a little bit more. I find him to be a bit more explosive, and I think he has an easier path to end up being the true Cleveland number one here in the next year or so. So that's where I've been leaning in that back end of the first round.
Right. And it's kind of interesting. Some of these depth charts start having it with Concepcion and Boston over Jerry Jeudy at this point, which yeah, very kind of interesting, right? Eli Stowers goes, Omar Cooper goes after that, and then Antonio Williams. That puts me back on the clock here as well. Again, right, Eli Stowers, this was a guy that we kind of called out saying that, hey, I think this guy's kind of getting overdrafted, and they kind of held form there, right? Antonio Williams, the guy that you were talking about, potential value there. I'm kind of looking at the board here, right? Mike Washington's available, Katron Allen's available, Fernando Mendoza managed to fall here. This is one that as much as I want to take a Katron Allen with this pick, because I do think that that's probably a good pick there. The fact that Fernando Mendoza kind of fell in this, a lot of times I see him going at the back of the first round, and in most of these cases mid to back end. This is a guy that's, quite frankly, there's a reason he's taken number 1 overall, and I'm going to kind of buy into that and see if I can't get a pick that's kind of a cornerstone of a franchise here for several years to come.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Mike Washington, Katron Allen, Jacoby Lane, Zachariah Branch, Jeremy Bernard, Nick Singleton, Ted Hurst. Bummer. Hurst went 1 pick before where I was wanting to go, but that's okay. So I'm going to go back through and I'm going to lean on a guy that we were talking about earlier here with a ton of potential, and I'm going with Stribling here at the back end of the second round, and I'm feeling pretty good about that.
I was hoping that one would fall to me here at the 3 in the third round here. After that one, Claiborne went, then Claire went, and Michael Trigg, right? We have kind of back-to-back tight ends coming off the board with Claire and Trigg. Yeah, I really can kind of look at it at a couple of different options here. Wide receivers, I think there's some really good options here, and I really kind of like the way the board has fallen on this one, right? With Surratt there, Brazil there, Bell there, right? These are kind of all 3 guys that potentially had have some upside here with this. I'm going to go ahead and take a guy in Bell that I think can probably deliver me some value on that third rounder.
There you go. I like that. So then Ty Simpson, Jack Velling, these are blocking tight ends. But again, they're saving it for the third round. So Kenyon Barnes, I think, is an interesting one. And then some more tight ends, honestly. Interesting. So the board's pretty open for me here at the moment, right? A lot of receivers, right? Surratt's still there, Brazel, Fields, a guy that we didn't talk about, another weapon for Jackson Dart there in New York. I don't hate that pick necessarily, but as we kind of go through and the way things are looking, oh shoot, I gotta find him now. So this is kind of where I'm looking at the board and how things are going. Here we go. There we go. So there's a couple guys who are still standing out there. The guy that we didn't talk about, Skylar Bell. Skylar Bell's interesting because, again, Buffalo has to throw the ball to somebody. Like, it's got to hit sooner or later. So he's a little bit of an older rookie. So he's, experience, if you will, but played at Wisconsin, and sometimes that's not the best ideal situation. But with the fact that I already have 2 receivers on the board, I'm going to stay true to kind of what I was talking about, and I'm going third round quarterback here, and I'm going to go Carson Beck.
Okay. I like that pick there, right? And then Elisha Surratt went, and then McMillan went as well. So overall, I feel pretty good about the way the draft board fell to me. Any kind of thoughts on this, or any teams you kind of really like the way that that they ended up making their picks?
So I'll tell you, the tight end run in the third round was a bit excessive from what I've seen in the rookie drafts that I've been taking part in. So
yeah, very much so.
Players who are left on the board who I typically see go, right? Bell, Fields, Brazel, Black, the running back the running back for San Francisco. Like, all those guys are typically gone in that third round ish. Or if we were to do a fourth round, they're definitely gone in the fourth round. So a little bit different. But it's not terribly far off. And then again, it's just educated dart throws. Like, who has the path to targets, and who has the path to time on the field that's not just special teams work. But overall, let's see. I like yours. I don't mind team 3s, right? With Jordan Tyson, Mike Washington, and Ty Simpson. I don't mind that one. I feel like a lot of these teams that the computer drafted were 2 out of 3, if you will. I don't love Team 6 outside of Jadarian Price. I really don't like Team 7. Yeah. So it's definitely hit or mix. I don't mind Team 12. Cooper, Max Clare. Um, I don't. Claire's not. He's a guy that I was hoping the Broncos were going to take, and I think they were planning on it until the Rams picked him one spot before. I think they drafted him at 61, and the Broncos had a pick at 62 overall. I think that's who the Broncos were targeting, and that's why they traded back 4 spots to 66 during the draft. I don't mind that one, but I don't think he's going to do anything this year. Like this is the new hot thing, right? Teams are going to start running multiple tight end sets and really putting the pressure on the defense to see if they're going to keep stay in that nickel or dime package to have the speed on the field, or if you're going to match it and bring in an extra linebacker and then potentially open things up for a slot receiver or a tight end who can get around a linebacker. So that's kind of the new trick in the NFL here at the moment. But there's a couple teams I like. But I would say what really screwed the pooch was all those tight ends in the 3rd round that kind of diluted what some of these teams could have done.
Right. Yeah, but there was I think you probably hit the nail right on the head when you said, the 2 out of 3, right? Like there was a lot of teams that I felt were just rocking and rolling and doing very well, and then one of their 3 picks just left me scratching my head there a little bit. So yeah, overall I like the way that you managed to maneuver the draft. I feel pretty confident about my picks there. There was a couple others that kind of did well, but overall I think they're, for the most part, it was kind of 2 out of 3, which some of that happens when you've got the computer AI trying to draft there, and just kind of doing what it wants to do, or trying to follow a specific ADP type of scenario. So it's interesting, and we'll see how that one comes how that kind of continues to turn out there. But yeah, overall I didn't see too many shockers off the board. So any other thoughts here with the draft?
No, pretty standard first couple rounds, right? Like again, you can see I leaned kind of heavily on guys that I was talking about earlier, right? They continue to fall in these spots, and I would tell you that for the most part, where I got those guys, I can get them in 10, 12 person leagues, playing with the full room and not just having the AI draft 10 out of those 12 spots. So I feel good about that. I thought what does happen, like I saw it happen in one of my leagues earlier, was Mendoza falling to the 2nd round. Like I've seen it once. Most of my leagues are super flex, so I don't see it, but there are 2 leagues that I'm in that are single quarterback leagues, and in one of them he fell to the beginning of the 2nd round. I was like, man, I think it was kind of the same situation. The dude ended up with Tate and Mendoza. It's like, wow, like that, you feel good about that, right? How you started that draft, like, great. I know I have 2 players who, are going to see playing time for me this season. Tate probably more so right out of the gate than Mendoza, but if Mendoza hits, he doesn't have to be Tom. He doesn't have to be Tom Brady, right? There's not that many Tom Bradys, but if Mendoza hits and he turns into Jared Goff, like, is he your every week starter? No, maybe not. But is he a guy that you can at least lean on through some tough times? Absolutely. And you got him in the 2nd round. Like that's kind of how you build these dynasty rosters up and keep them going.
Right. Because I was kind of coming through there and had every thought of taking Katron Allen there with that second round pick, and you're looking up and went, well, yeah, for Mendoza there, it makes more sense for kind of long term there, right? Like quarterbacks, they take a little bit to develop, so bring that along, and then they typically, if they're going to pan out, they're going to be there and potentially be a staple on your roster for 10 years. So takes some of the guesswork out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Allen went a little bit earlier than most of the drafts that I've seen, unless I'm drafting in the front end. If I'm drafting in the front end, I'm smashing him in the second round. Like there's got to be a massive drop by somebody to have me overlook him and grab somewhere else. But that's okay. It happened, and there's going to be drafts where he is. And I think the longer you go before your rookie draft, I think the higher up the draft board he's going to go. Like he was a great, back into the second, third round pick right after the draft because people kind of weren't catching up to it. And now he's in the back end to the middle of the second. This draft had him more in the middle to the beginning of the second. I don't know that we're going to see him jump up into the first round by the time we're done with all these rookie drafts, but I think we're going to consistently see him at the front end of the second round for sure.
Yeah, very, very well could be. So I would agree with that. Yeah, I do believe that's going to take us down here to the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Thanks for tuning in, right? I mean, obviously, if you guys have questions during these rookie drafts, a lot of them are slow drafts. Feel free to hit us up at Good Old Boys FF. We'll kind of give you at least what our opinions are on it, whether it's draft day trades, whether it's which rookie to pick up, and some things like that. We'll at least be a sounding board and can give a differing opinion, or maybe it's what you had as far as an idea all along, and you just need confirmation. But we're here for that. So other than that, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your NBA, NHL playoffs. You got baseball and softball conference tournaments, I believe, that are kind of in the middle of it. Derek, I don't know how much you follow your Sooners softball team, but they're really stinking good. For those of y'all who don't know, like really stinking good. So they're trying to get through the SEC there and then on to the super regionals and college softball World Series. So there's a lot of fun stuff on right now. If you happen to be, in places that are getting inches of snow, like Derek is potentially going to get, or if it's been raining buckets on you and you can't get outside to get the yard work done or something like that, like there's good stuff on. So enjoy it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So do appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, all that good stuff. And Kevin already told you where to find us on the socials. But do us the favor. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe button, all of that. It does help us out. That's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.